There we go. Okay, so we are on chapters 11 and 12 of the 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication. And we start out with show and tell is better than just tell, the law of visual expression. So first question for you guys, show and tell was a thing, for me anyway, at school. Do you guys remember show and tell? Did you ever have show and tell? Do you remember bringing anything for show and tell? I brought my dad once because my dad was the caretaker at our school. And so I brought him in and I like introduced him to all of my friends. That was in kindergarten. Trisha, you look like you had a response.
I was just going to say, I used to do show and tell for like grade 1 and grade 2. I don't necessarily do it in grade 3. Do I remember what I brought? Nope, I don't remember what I brought.
What is the most memorable show and
kid.
tell? What is the most memorable show and tell you've ever witnessed being a teacher?
That's a really good question because it's been a really long time since I taught grade 2.
I'm sure like there were lots of like kittens and puppies and babies and
yeah, kids always ask to bring animals, but because of allergies now, we don't bring animals.
those are the best show and tells.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think I remember once somebody bringing like a sheep and we had to go outside. And Sherry says she has no recollection of show and tell. It probably was not. I don't know when that became a thing. Linda's like, it wasn't a thing either. Wasn't a thing either. So I would love to hear from you guys how this kind of resonated with you, how this chapter of show and tell resonated with you in relation to our businesses and the idea of having visuals, visual expression, just to connect to people. Like, is there something that like when you were reading this chapter, you're like, oh yeah, that's just like blank?
I have to admit, I have not read these chapters yet. I'm a little behind, so I'm along for the ride.
Thank you for your honesty. And I hate to pick on Linda every time. Linda and Janelle both do actually a phenomenal job of being like a show and teller kind of person. Linda, can you tell us about your last reel, what you did in the store?
Well, I just talked about how I have a weakness for buying shoes. And I had a pair of boots in my hand. So
did you buy the boots?
No. Oh. No, I like them. I like them, but I didn't love them. And I have a few pair.
So that was awesome. Like Linda actually, she set her phone up in the shoe store and she started talking to people and I was like, who is this person? Like this was so good. So that was like using your shoe as an illustration, like what do you have a weakness for, right? I mean, I loved that you chose that and it was still applicable to you. We weren't talking specific about health, but we were still talking about things that we have weakness for. So it's not necessarily like, here's a chocolate cake. I have a weakness for chocolate cake. I still think the plexus can help you with your weakness for shoes because as you bring in more money, it's shoe money. Again, we reference.
I agree.
Yeah. Again, we reference Celeste Quinn and her husband saying, you can just use this as your fun money. And now she's making a gazillion dollars, right? Yeah, Trisha?
I'm with you on the shoes.
Yep. Little work for shoes.
Yep.
So I think for me, the chapter that talked about visuals really takes me back to how do people learn? And some of us are extremely visual learners. If we can't attach our vision to an anchor, we can't hear anything that's going on. We really don't hear much at all. And so therefore, the use of visual and visuals in storytelling, the audio, the voice, the tonality of the voice, the resonance of the voice, the tactile piece. I mean, if we can be holding something, if we can connect it to tactile, those are all key parts of learning and educational systems. And Trisha could explain this way more effectively than I'm explaining it. But it
I have some
really,
things
to
to
me,
say.
yeah, exactly. It really, to me, is so much more engaging and connecting. Okay, go Trisha.
Yeah, and it'll be short and sweet, but definitely we call that brain-based learning. So it's one of the ways to connect the brain is it's a brain hook. And so if you just speak to your students and they actually don't have an image to connect to it, their learning will be far less than what it could be if they have an image to connect to it. And then, you know, even novelty. So thinking about how we try to educate, but we also try to entertain, and that entertaining piece is something I need to work on because I'm very much knowledge-based. But even the entertaining part of things is brain-based learning. So if you can have a little fun with it, make people laugh, then that also will engage people as well.
I was stretched by this chapter this week for our team call. And this is why I used the visuals that I did on our team call. Whether I did it right or not, I was like, I'm just going to do it because I'm not as good as Sherry is with Canva and all of the like the creating the slides and whatever. And I was like, nope, but the chapter says that I'll do better at connecting with people if I have visuals. And maybe you guys can imagine yourselves on the beach, or maybe you guys can imagine yourself, like try to put yourselves into the picture. So that was a challenge for me that I took this week. Trisha, I love how you said humor, because I know that in other things that we've read before, they've made the point that if somebody can laugh while they're learning, that is one of those anchor pieces, right? Like it really does lay that into like cement, right? In our brains, that we're able to remember things a lot more if we're laughing while we're actually taking in the information. Something that I thought was interesting in the book, like page 198 and 199, he's talking about gestures and expressions. He's talking about movement. And so I started thinking about watching people's stories and movement, and how there's a couple people who I watch who are Plexus people that are always walking through their house and talking. And I'm always so fascinated as to where they're walking, where in their house they are, what are they doing? Like it holds my attention in a different way than if somebody is just standing still. And I try to do it too. And then I'm like, the lighting gets weird and then it looks odd. And do you know what I mean? But yeah, it's so interesting. Have you guys found that? Like it holds your attention a little bit more when someone is moving? While you guys are thinking, Sharon put in the comments that she, her brother brought a Swiss Army knife for show and tell in grade 3 and got suspended. He was the quietest, best kid too. Aww. And Sherry said sometimes it's just distracting. Absolutely, sometimes it is distracting. But when you're looking at a piece of a story, I'm thinking of Marianne Anderson is just walking as she is talking, and it does, like, or Amy Paul, who walks through their farm, or like their plantation, that kind of thing. I find that really, really fascinating. Sorry, my nose is itchy this morning. Sherry, do you have any other thoughts? I don't know where Sherry is in service here. It's weird not to see your face. I know you're there. It's a visual thing, apparently. So a question is, as far as movement goes, is there anyone that you can think of, like a famous person or someone that maybe we've seen with Plexus, who have just really been captivating through gestures, facial expressions? Maybe you can think of like an actor or a comedian or something like that just is very expressive, and because of that expression just really holds your attention.
Hey, I can't recall her name. It'll come to me in a second here as I'm talking about her. But I think you guys will know Christine. She's a pastor. Christine. Anyways, she has a short sort of her hair is kind of in a bob, but when she talks all the time, her hands are always moving. When she's preaching, her hands are always moving. They do all these, like it's like she's directing us to listen to her. Do you guys know who I'm talking about?
Janelle
Yes.
said Christine Kane, yeah.
Yes, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Her hands are always moving. Like it's almost a little distracting. I haven't decided yet if it's helping me or distracting me, but I just listened to her the other day and I was like, whoa, those hands just don't stop.
And interestingly enough, I have a student teacher, and her university coordinator evaluator came this week, and one of the things he said is that she uses her hands really well to convey meaning to the students, and he was like, that's something you want to continue to work on. And I've never thought.
Like he said that was something that you should continue to work on, or that she should continue to work on. Oh, you're muted again.
That she should.
Okay.
Right? And I was like, oh, I never thought of giving that as a pointer to my student teachers to say, yeah, like when you use your hand movements in a way that helps convey meaning, that can help students.
Mm-hmm.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Well, and I think back to like sitting in church as a kid, and we were Baptists, so when he talks about speaking from behind the lectern, like the pulpit was there, and some of our pastors would like grip the sides, right? And you knew that he was really trying to get to you if he was gripping the sides of the pulpit. But the most memorable moments for me from different pastors that I've seen in that particular church was when they would walk out from behind the pulpit and they would come to the side or the other side. And I remember we had one pastor who would like slap his knees and like kind of get down, like, and talk to you in that way. And just a lot of body involvement that wasn't distracting, but that just really communicated that they were human, right? Not just being stiff and talking at you. But just like that physical animation piece, right? I talk with my hands too much. That's why I don't have my glass desk anymore. This is just a stupid aside, but I would talk with my hands so much when I was presenting like on book club or as a, whenever, and my rings would hit my glass and it would sound like, yeah, I would listen back to the audio and think the poor people trying to listen because just, yeah. So what are some of the ways that we could create visuals in our storytelling, in our stories, when we're talking to people, to kind of have them engage a little bit more with us, and feel more connected with us as we are talking? Yes, Sharon, go ahead.
You want a piece of toast?
I think a lot of it is just the pictures and stuff that we choose as well too. Like in our
specific circumstance, right? As people who are not public speakers necessarily, but are doing something and trying to draw people in, right? The pictures that we're putting with posts, I don't think every picture needs to be perfect, but learning to take a good picture with your phone, right? Learning to sometimes show your face, learning to show where you are, right? Learning to show a moment in your day, be it live or a still or whatever. That matters. That matters huge, and it draws people in and they love to see it, right? And it's I think that that's very much connected to our visuals of what we need to do.
Mm. Yeah. Got me thinking about carousel posts too. When people have like the words at the beginning and like a health, like kind of a hook at the beginning of it, and then they have more information as you scroll through, and just what type of visual would be attractive to people to make them want to continue to scroll through. The other piece that I thought was interesting that he brought up, the fellow who would have illustrations that were really, really simple, but they were like, they're simple but effective. And I thought, oh yeah, like sometimes if you draw something, maybe it's even just mixing it up, right? Having different types of visuals. Trisha, what kind of visuals do you use in your classroom? Sorry, you were going to say something before I asked you the question, but.
I was. I remember you did a few posts where you actually just wrote something, like the message, even like just Friday. And I had asked you, where did you get that font? And you were like, oh, that's my font. And it was just a change up, and it caught my eye. And so, yeah, just like drawing on your visuals could catch the attention of others.
That was just on stories where you can draw. Best thing ever is if you can like acquire, I was gonna say steal, if you can acquire a pen that has one of those little ball tip things on it that you can like use to like, do you know what I mean? Like use on your device.
A stylus?
The stylus, they're the best. Absolutely the best.
Yeah.
What kind of visuals do you use when you teach, Trisha?
It's always, so when I create a Google, like I teach a lot from Google Slides or PowerPoints and stuff like that. So every slide always has a visual because, like I said, that's a brain-based basic thing that we do. So it's always trying to connect to the information that I'm teaching to. So I don't know. Typically, it's just off the internet somewhere.
So more on a screen than physical visuals is something that you use more so now. It's been forever since I've been in the classroom. So.
Oh yeah, like we definitely have physical visuals. Like we're studying the Earth's crust and how it changes. So for one of our introductory things, we had a volcano that had baking soda and the vinegar, and it exploded and stuff like that. And we're going to do another one this week. So yeah, definitely. I mean, kids, especially the age that I teach, they also need to be touching and interacting. So that tactile piece as well, not just the visual.
Yeah. Well, I bet that they'll all remember that.
Oh yeah.
Can I ask a question? What do you guys, I'd like to know, do you guys, when you're watching stories, do you listen to maybe the music or what the person's talking about, or do you have the sound off?
It depends what kind of time I have.
Yeah, interesting. Because I don't know if you guys, some people don't put the
Options.
Yes, and others don't. And sometimes you're like, they're talking a long time. What are they talking about? And like Trish said, if I have time, I'll listen because obviously that person that I want to hear from. But yeah, it's just kind of interesting. And then I don't know if you guys know, there's the option on excuse me, on Facebook, where it's the option that you can voice over and then have music in the background. So sometimes I do that for, you know, mixing my pink drink or whatever. But yeah, it's all different ways that people learn, right? So
Mhm. Well, and you just said something too that we haven't even talked about. I was gonna say it, but like I was gonna just let it out there for you guys. Mixing up your pink drink is a visual. And we think that it's just it's a normal thing, right? Like it's a something we do every day. And so do people need to see us doing it all the time? Well, yeah, sometimes they're curious and sometimes they don't see your post, or sometimes they're wondering how you do it. Or the number of times that I still get people, like even ambassadors, that message me and they're like, you put your slim and your active together. I'm like, I've been doing it every day for years and showing it every day for years, and yet people are still asking questions. And these are people who should know in my mind. And I'm like, well, if the people who should know have no idea, then therefore my audience probably has no idea either, right? By the way, I did not mix my active and my slim this morning. I'm like going naked slim, which is like weird. Jimmy,
I was just gonna, oh, sorry, I was
no,
gonna say
go ahead.
one more thing. I think yesterday, the reason why I had somebody message me that I've never talked to about Plexus was because of that, of me yesterday sharing about the pink drink and mixing it up, because yeah, it was like left field. She's like, what is that drink you have? So yeah, you think it's so repetitive, and you think, oh, here I go again. I'm going to do this, you know, I'll probably do it about once a week.
Right?
Here I go again. Is it actually anybody going to notice? And somebody noticed.
Yeah. Totally. Like you never know. You never know, right? So it's challenging me to try to think of different ways to do it so that people can see it. So maybe that needs to be our challenge this week. And challenge you guys 3 times this week to do a mix up as a visual. 3 times. It doesn't have to be 3 different things. It can be three times exactly the same, but doing a video mix up with something. Sharon, bonus points if you have your kids do it.
Actually, people love that.
Yes, they do.
I watched for almost 5 minutes my niece having her child mix up her coffee, her iced coffee. I was like, why am I watching this for so long? I don't even know, but it's so cute. He's so cute.
But that's a brilliant point though. Like, so Sheila Cron this week had her littlest, she had Maisie doing, no, not Maisie, Sadie doing her shake with her. And it was the cutest thing, like the cutest thing, because she was talking. Did you see it, Janelle? So cute. Yeah, because she's like, she calls it her Nilla shake, right? So it's like down at the bottom. And she did some cuts, like it wasn't just the full thing, but it was so cute and it was different, right? Not that Sheila isn't cute on her own. She can totally be cute on her own. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of things that we can take from this. And I always find myself when I start reading the chapters, I'm like, oh, okay, but we're not public speakers. And I'm like, but stop it. Yes, you are. Like, if you look at how many people listen to your stories or watch your stories or consider how many people scroll by your posts, you are a voice to that person that day. And if you have 30 people that see your story, picture those people in a room. You are talking to 30 people in a room. If you have 50 people, you are speaking to 50 people in a room that day, 100 people. Like, I think we discount what we do on social, right? To go back to what Jimmy said, I listen to people, I listen to music, I will read captions. It just depends on what time of day I am and where I'm at in my house, whether my phone should be silent. And but I like to read. I like to read and listen. So I like both at the same time. So I always put captions on. I also know that we've got a hard of hearing community that follows a lot of Plexus people. And that's one of the visuals that they've commented on before, that apparently I use sign language sometimes when I talk. So who knew? Maybe you would be too. Talk with your hands. You never know. And pictures, that was something, and I'm trying to decide if I really want to do it, but I pulled out an old picture. How many, okay, you know how when you share a picture of you with your family, how many more likes or how many more comments you get on it, or like that, it's a different thing than you typically post, right? Well, I pulled out an old picture of Nolan yesterday, and I was looking at it, and then I happened upon an old picture of myself from the same time frame, and I'm like, how can I use this as an effective visual? My kids are like, you look like Marilyn Monroe. I'm like, I do not. It's the eyeballs are just squinty, and it's just the way that they took the picture, right? Like, it's an old school headshot. So, that's an idea. Find an old photo that you could help to tell your story, that it will engage people differently, right? And I think that that's something that I just took away from this chapter, was just really mix up the type of visuals that you're using, whether it be video, whether it be, old pictures, current pictures, pictures of your dog, right? Oh, Jimmy's like, I'll get my dog Luna to mix up my pink drink. Yeah. Well, I looked back in my stories, and I had Riot was like a puppy, and I was sitting on the floor drinking my shake. Like I had a lean smoothie, and he's like trying to get into my cup. And I'm like, well, that probably got, like, that's cute. That probably got a decent amount of traffic. So, storytelling, the art of storytelling. Sharon could just like educate us all on the art of storytelling. Actually, did you sign up for that, Sharon? No, I didn't either yet. Okay. If you want to become a better storyteller or a better copywriter, I think we probably still can get into this. A friend of mine, a diamond from the States, is doing a 8-week, 5-week. It started on Monday, and there's recordings thing on copywriting, like basically on how to write better posts. And my friend Carrie Spratley said she took her course. It's the last time that Kelly is offering it. She said, I took her course, and it completely changed the way that I posted. And it's also given me, she had 4 brand new ambassadors or VIPs before she left for Mexico, and they weren't people she reached out to. It was just all through connection in her post. It's completely changed her business. It's a $20 course, you guys. So anyway, that's a little bit more on storytelling. Kelly, the lady who was doing the storytelling or copyright, I can't remember what she's calling it. Sharon, if you can remember, I can't. She is actually a writer and an actress. And so she's writing scripts. Her kids, she's got four kids. And has anybody ever watched Bosch, the TV show Bosch? Her daughter is Maddie Bosch. Anyway, and actually, oddly enough, it's Maddie Lintz. Like, her name is actually Maddie. Anyway, I think it's really awesome when people choose to share an area where they have that level of expertise. And she actually came to the Jewel page and she was like, guys, the leadership stuff, like, you guys, there's so many people that are better at doing that piece than I am, or teaching that piece than I am. But I am really good at this, and I'm offering this course, and it's affordable. It's $20. Like, and the comments I'm hearing is that she really over delivers for that $20, which is really nice. Okay, sorry, that was totally an aside, but the law of storytelling, people see their own lives in stories. So do you guys, what was your favorite book from when you were a kid? Do you remember a particular book from when you were younger? I remember The Little Engine That Could, when he said that. Trisha's trying to unmute. You can't do it!
Fish out of water.
What?
Has anybody read that before? Fish out of water.
No.
No? It's
What's
a good
that?
one.
Okay.
It's yeah. It's like a primary book I loved it and read it and read it and read it.
Cool. Very cool. Janelle.
When I was little, my mom used to read me The Secret Garden.
Ooh.
And then when I got old enough to read, it became one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Sherry says that she remembers the little engine that could. One that came up on my memories actually the other day that I did a read aloud to my kids was Bridge to Terabithia. And they all loved it, but I knew what the ending was going to be. And I was like, oh no, we have an emotional connection and someone's going to die. like, like they were of the right age, but like, I was like, this is going to turn from I love this book to I can't believe this book broke my heart. Right. Oh, Diana, I'll love you forever. Yes, absolutely. We talk about, there's a Robert Munsch book. I can't remember what it's actually called. But there's a line in it that I always used to say to my kids, and it would be, now look, this is kindergarten. In kindergarten, we share. And like my kids, I think I would say it that way. Like if they were fighting, all of a sudden I would be like, now look. Oh, I love Robert Munsch. Yeah, do not read I Love You Forever if you're like late at night and emotional. That's just not, no. Okay. Anyone you guys can think of who's a great storyteller? Oh, We Share Everything is what it's called. We Share Everything. I wonder if we still have that book. I don't know. Anyway. We share everything. Yes, you're right. That's how it goes. Can you guys think of any really great storytellers? Sherry says humor is so helpful. It totally is. Like I think about Robert Munsch himself, right? Have you guys ever heard him read one of his stories? It's like the best. Like I remember way back when you would get a book with a cassette and like you could have the author read the book to you on the cassette and you'd have the book. And he was just so great. Like the Murmel book. I remember that one too. Yeah, Sharon.
Something that we talk about a lot because I'm homeschooling, right? With my now grade 4 girl is painting word pictures, right? And using our words and taking notice of when a book is good, right? What is the picture that the author is painting and what are the words that they are choosing, right? And how that makes a picture in our mind, right? Because it's everybody, well, yeah, I would say most good storytellers, right? They're very, very apt at painting good word pictures. Like some of it, like even if anyone has a copy of Charlotte's Web in their house, open it to any page and be like, man, he's brilliant at painting a word picture. He's describing the noises and the air and how it feels and the smells and the whatever, and you can picture it. Like it's brilliant, even though it's a kid's book, right? Or yeah, I don't know. I just think to me, choosing, when I think of a good storyteller, I think of often the words that they choose and tell, and it's not an accident, or like that they write or say, it's not an accident. They're painting a word picture. They're trying to conjure up a visual in your mind.
And Sherry says, I found Charlotte's Web so slow. I couldn't wait to get to the action. Sherry wants
when Charlotte dies.
But I think that's really key when we're thinking about our audience, because we have people that are really connected to those word pictures, and we have people that will get bored and they'll be gone. And so to really understand the audience and to make those connections and to see the responses to make sure that we're continuing to connect is really important. And I love how he uses the SHARE acronym when he's talking about how to share a story effectively, because that really makes a difference.
I'm looking for the acronym just so that I can share.
Page 220.
The pages were stuck.
It's on page 220.
So it's share, help, amplify, relate, enjoy for those that.
And I think the key part there is not to add details that don't pertain to the story. Because he talks about describing a scene and he talks about describing the rifle on the wall. He said, you only describe the rifle on the wall if the rifle's going to go off in the story. Otherwise, it's irrelevant.
Yeah. Now, here's a question that I have for you guys. Do you think it depends on, now, of course, social media, sometimes somebody will see something that you posted at 9 a.m. at like 6 p.m., but there are people who will actually see things relatively in real time. Do you think it matters on time of day as far as what speaks to people and what doesn't? Like how wordy you can be, or how like what the word picture could be in the morning versus the word picture would need to be in the evening or at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Do you think that the time of day matters to people?
In what I've observed, people go on when they are ready to see or listen, not when you post it. So regardless of when you post it, when people are ready to look or listen, that's when they go on. I did some testing with IG and it didn't seem to matter. I got the same number of views no matter what time I posted. So it seemed to be more related to my audience than to my posting.
Sharon, is that pretty much what you were going to say? Yeah. The reason I ask is because I was just kind of thinking about myself and my habits in reading. And I know that I have different habits depending on the time of day. So I think that it's important to do a little bit of all of the things, right? Things that have a really strong word picture, and then things that are really simple, and like basically sprinkling different things throughout, using this as a tool, right? And not something for us to get wrapped up in, but just keeping that in mind, right? So maybe earlier in the day, I would be far more likely to sit down and read something that was really long. In the middle of the day, I want something short and snappy. And probably near the end of the day, when I'm kind of winding down, I'm more likely to read something lengthier than I would be in the middle of the day. I really like, so H, so in that SHARE acronym, show is what do I want them to see or hear? And then this is a reminder that we want people to be able to see themselves in our stories, right? And then the second thing is how, for help, is how will telling this story help them? I think that we really do focus on this, but I think that a piece of that too is really important, is the call to action that we give, right? So something, if we paint this beautiful word picture and it's got all of the information, but there's no way for them to progress to the next step of help, some people need that invitation. Do you guys find it easy to put a call to action on a story or on a post, or is it something I struggle with it sometimes, because I'm like, I just would like to, I'd like to wrap this up as a writer, not like I want the story to be complete and not necessarily like my brain doesn't go to that call to action immediately.
I think it's a little bit of reading the room, or in this case, the social media, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes I do, right? And sometimes I very purposely do not, right? Because it's just a drip. That's all it is, right? And they, they kind of know, they can contact me if they want to. And I have had people do that when it's about Plexus or not about Plexus, right? But it's the mixing it up. Some people do need that invitation. So I make sure that I have both, but I also don't want every single post to be a sneaky sales pitch, because people are not stupid.
No,
right? Like no. They know, right?
But like,
I totally agree, Sharon, because not every story is intended for an action. So if we think about the ROI or return on investment of your story, it's what do I want them to do? That is an action. But what do I want them to think, or what do I want them to feel? Because on that drip program, sometimes you just want them to start thinking about a new idea. They're not ready for an action. Or you maybe want them to feel excited about an idea. It's not time for the action.
But maybe
So I
the
do think
action
it's really important.
Yeah, maybe the action though is a feeling. Like I think about Linda saying, what was your question? Not what do you struggle with, but what was your, like I have a shoe addiction or whatever.
What, excuse me, what's your weakness?
What's your weakness, right? So in my mind, by Linda asking the audience, what's your weakness? Her call to action is the response. So it's not necessarily like, what's your weakness? Tell me and or tell me what your weakness is and if you want to try my pink drink. It's like, it's a conversation. It's an invitation to come into conversation. So that's the call to action there, right? And Janelle was going to say something too. No, she's like, no, it's covered.
Pretty much similar to what Sharon had shared. So
yeah. The amplify in that share is, what do I want them to imagine? That's what Sherry was talking about, right? Where do we want them to go in their brains? How do we want them to think, or where do we want to lead them in that thought process? And again, what do we want them to feel?
I'll just comment again in relation to Linda's story. When she was talking about the shoes, the story, and it was a very brief little story, connected me with her, made me think about, oh, what things do I go to look for? Like, it created all of that mental activity when I watched that little short story. And it also left that creative option for, oh yeah, shoes, well, books, because I read somebody's comment about books. Yeah, books is a pretty big deal too. And it invited the engagement of the conversation. So it really hit all the aspects of that SHARE acronym.
Totally. Yeah. I also kind of felt like I was shopping with her, which was sort of fun. Because I like shopping. And when Janelle takes her, like, the mirror selfies of like what compression stocking she's wearing that day and her outfit, she's like, it's outfit of the day, but I feel like she's inviting us into her workplace, right? And so she's showing us a piece of her story for that day. And then she usually follows it up with like some educational pieces on like compression garments, or like very, very, I find it very fascinating because it's something I don't know a lot about. It's something that currently I'm not using, but the information is still really valuable. I find it fascinating to learn about it and to understand it. And she posts links, and I learn, like, other people's story, and I go there and I read them, and I, that kind of thing, right? The other thing that's interesting though, as Sherry was sharing about Linda's reel, I was like, oh, you know what? I actually didn't comment on that because it was something that was just flipping by and my hands were in something else. But I think what's interesting to think about, because I don't know if you guys assess your thought processes when you're consuming social or not. I do. I found a ton of value in it. It was really impactful. It connected me with a whole bunch of her story and who she was and what she was doing. I did not comment. How many other people do you think did the same thing, right? So when our metric is often, it connected with people because it elicited a response that they chose to put into the comments. I think that's like 7% of the impact that we have. So Linda, you likely had way more people than your insights will ever show that connected with that. And I think we need to all remember that, right?
I wanted to say, I like the comment on, or the quote on top of 222.
Yeah.
Where it says, in the, excuse me, in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, there are few. And I like that, right? Just always, I feel like in posting, not giving it all, just giving them a little sprinkling of information or an idea that allows them to ignite their imagination for possibilities. If we give them all the information, then they just know, and the imagination of possibilities is closed.
Mm-hmm.
So thought that really stood out to me.
Yeah. So my question for you guys is, as we're going through these things, as we're reading these chapters, is there anything that has kind of come to mind, or maybe you read the chapter earlier in the week and you've already started practicing some things that have come to mind? Is there anything that has kind of been brought to the surface that is encouraging you to add to how you tell stories or how you communicate, like whether it's visually or just in storytelling in general? Is there anything that has kind of elicited a different, I don't know, given you a different bucket to pull from that you want to incorporate more?
I would like to elicit more emotion.
Okay, can you go deeper?
Like
a trick question.
Like I said, you know, I'm a pretty factual kind of person. I think it's always hard for me to reach out with the heart, but that relate piece, how do I want them to feel? And it says too often I hear speakers tell stories directed only to the minds of the listeners and failing to reach their hearts. So if you want to tell a connecting story, put your emotions into it. So I think that's probably what I'd like to work on a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Anyone else? What's one way that you guys can think of that we could use humor more? One that pops into my brain, which is really funny. I think it's really funny. I'll use Celeste Gwynn as another example. There is a comedian who makes fun of social marketing or like network marketers like mercilessly, but he's really funny. If you can just like get over the fact that some of the things sting, because he's totally right in a lot of ways, he's really funny. And so her friends actually had him do a birthday greeting for her birthday this year. And it was hilarious because he was like calling out all of the different, like, you know, I can't even remember all the things that he said. I just remember how funny it was and how she laughed at all of these things that were pretty parallel to the things that we do. And I mean, not that she does them poorly, but just some verbiage things and some, you know, whatever. And he was so funny. And she continuously, like, she for a while would like post more things that he would bring up that were making fun of network marketing. but it was because she was laughing at herself. And then she'd turn around and tell a story and, you know, pick one of the things out of there and like, not necessarily debunk it, but like, yeah, you know, sometimes it sounds like this, but da, 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 da. And she would just be like, thought that it was just the funniest thing. And I thought it's just really interesting because it's not something that she was like, oh, you know, that's, I shouldn't even have myself, you know, recognized with this person because they're making fun of our profession and how awful that it, you know, whatever. He's not saying how awful it is. He just thinks that it's funny, right? I think you can find humor, like how many times people laugh at police officers who drink coffee and eat donuts, right? Like everyone thinks that's hilarious. But like it was just interesting how she wove the humor piece into the stories that she was telling at the same time, in a way that a lot of people wouldn't choose to. I know that Diana has been doing a really great job, and I see it spurts every now and again as she'll post like a, I don't want to say like a one-liner, but just something that's short and quippy and, you know, just entertaining and funny and, you know, just really interesting. And I so value that because it sort of like, it's great to laugh at something quickly as it's going by, right? Or, you know, those weird, Amy posted it this week. That thing is like, is it a goat or is it a bird? And she's like, or a rabbit. And I'm staring at this thing. I'm like, I don't see the rabbit. I don't see the rabbit, right? Any other ways you guys can think of how we could put humor into things? Yes, the Life Explained story. Hold on. The one at the end is what I think you're talking about. Right, Sherry? It's the one that he's talking about on like God created the dog. I'm assuming that was it.
Yes, that one. And
I did laugh out loud at that one.
Yeah, and it's totally funny to me because often humor, I know it's not my thing. I know it's not my thing to offer. And often other people providing humor, I don't find it that funny. So it's so curious.
Mm-hmm. I think the other piece too is just a reminder to not take ourselves so seriously. You don't have to be hilarious. I also think it's really funny though. We're almost out of time here. You know, you've been on social media for a really long time and producing content. If your first reaction when something funny or weird is happening is you grab your phone to video it or your device to video it. So one of the diamonds in Mexico woke up to a raccoon, either a raccoon or a Cody in her room. And like saw it like opening the door. What does she do first? She grabs her phone. She's not trying to get the dang thing out of her room. She's screeching, but she's got her phone and she's videoing the whole time, right? And I'm laughing, right? Or, you know, Brittany Howard, whose daughter dumped nail polish all over her white marble floors and her grout in her new bathroom. She thought to grab her phone. I would have died. Like, she thought to grab her phone and like show a humorous, like, you know, someday we'll laugh at this kind of thing, right? Jimmy, on camera, I spilled my pink drink and had lots of laughs. Yeah. There was one day I was doing a reel and I spilled tea. Janelle, that day that I spilled tea all over myself in my car, I was trying to film a reel and the top popped off of my tea and it just went everywhere. And I turned my phone off, like, and I stopped it before I even thought this. Sometime I might think this is hilarious and might want to use this.
So I have to say that I'm also not that great on humor, other than the one very distinct time that I remember actually reaching for my phone and videoing was the time where my illustrious leader was rolling on the floor trying to explain how to gently insert an enema. That I grabbed my phone and was able to catch on video. That might be about the only time that I've actually remembered to do it.
That wouldn't have been me.
And I still smile thinking about it.
That couldn't have been me. There's a lot of leaders between the two of us. It's fine. But I think the other piece too is because a lot of the things that we do, because we have a pervasive audience, like it's not like we get up on stage for an hour and we're done. Like, oh, there was a speaking engagement, now we're done. Like, we have the potential to have a speaking engagement or a platform every day. And using little pieces to connect people to who we are, what we do, why we do it, how it can help them, invite them into our lives, show them that we're not, like Sharon said, we're not trying to be greasy salespeople, like trying to get people to, like, you know, with that call to action at the end of every post, trying to get them to buy something from us. Like, we can use humor and storytelling and all of these things as tools to be human with our audience and connect with different people in different ways. So I hope that this has made us think, oh, Diana says our marriage is full of humor. And I think that's why we've been married for almost 40 years. Diana, if you ever think to turn the camera around on that, that would probably be brilliant. But sometimes the moment happens and you think, oh, I wish I had that on tape. Anyway, I will put that storytelling, it's not storytelling, but it's copywriting link in the group if you want to. I think she told me on Monday or Tuesday that it was still open. So I'm assuming if you go to the link and it's closed, but I know that she's already done a week. So we would be a week, or you would be a week behind. But if you have a hard time telling stories, or it's something that you love and you want to learn how to do better, I definitely would think that it would definitely be a good use of time and funds. So thank you guys so much for being here. I will take into consideration another Valerie Burton, because I think that might be a great. There's successful women think differently, successful women speak differently. So those are two of her other books that I found very interesting. So thanks, guys. Have a great Saturday, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.